Hi guys, welcome to a walkthrough of the reading section in the first SAT practice exam. You can find the link to this official practice test in the description below. In this walkthrough, I will take you through the techniques that I use and explain the reasoning behind answer choices. Now, let's get started. So the first step that I do while reading the passage would be to highlight or underline the main ideas, relationships, and organizational features. You can pause the video now to do this yourself. Now that you have unpaused the video, I'm going to take you through this passage and explain some of the highlights that I have made while reading this passage. So first, we can see here that we have a character named Akira that came directly breaking all tradition. That's the main point here. So this would mean that he probably broke some kind of rule or requirement to make some request. Following this line, we can see that his request was almost immediately rejected by another character, Chi. This is still mysterious here, but will be addressed later in the passage. Next, we can see from the presence of a maid and luxury details such as the ones here that Chi and Naomi were probably part of a noble family. This is a poor to rich relationship between Akira and Chi. Anyway, through deferential, over here, Naomi's breathless reaction and the part about parental approval in the very beginning, we can assume the relationship of Naomi and Akira to be lovers and Chi as a guardian figure above Naomi. This theory can be confirmed over here. Finally, the plot of the story is just that Akira came and wanted Chi's approval of his relationship with Naomi, but she essentially stayed silent over here and he just left. However, at the end of the passage, we see that even though Chi disapproves, thinking his hopes were preposterous, Naomi still, I think, liked him. So, that's about it for the passage, and now we can move on to the questions. So in the first question, it asks, what choice best describes what happens in the passage? For option A, there would be no argument, because even though Akira was talking the whole time, she didn't really talk back to him, and nor was there any part that introduced an argument. So for choice B, it is undecided because Chi was really surprised and really unsure about his request, so this choice could be correct. For choice C, reminisces essentially means remembers, and there is no flashbacks that we see throughout the passage, so this choice is also incorrect as A. For choice D, one character criticizes another character for pursuing an unexpected course of action. So, Akira did pursue an unexpected course of action because he broke all tradition. However, even though Chi has that sort of hint of disapproval over his request to ask for Naomi's hand, there wasn't any really talking back to Akira because Akira was essentially just talking the whole time and he just left. So in the end, we just end up with B as the only answer choice remaining and also the only correct one. Now on to question 2. Which choice best describes the developmental pattern of the passage? So through this passage we can see that, as I said before, Akira just came and broke some tradition, so there would be no traditional practice, so A would be just ruled out immediately. For B, it is fairly detailed and it is a meaningful encounter between Chi and Akira that implied Naomi's probably Naomi's future, so that would be a possible choice to consider. For C, there is no series of questions that we see here, nor did she give a definite response, so C can be ruled out also. For D, there would be no cheerful recounting because at the beginning here you can see that Akira was sort of sad, almost sad about it because he was reconsidering what he could have done. So for problem 2, it is also choice B. Now on to problem 3. Using line 1 and 65, the word directly most nearly means. So now we can just scroll up to line 1, Akira came directly, and line 65, I asked directly. So this would just mean without mediation, because mediation is essentially just like a median between some form of bridge between Akira's request to Chi. So he is just asking directly to Chi without anyone interfering in between, such as his father or mother. So frankly is just straight out wrong because it means honestly, and there's nothing about honest here. Confidently, I mean, he is confident while asking this question, but it doesn't mean directly. Without mediation, that is the correct answer choice here, and D is also wrong because there is no precision or just anything about it. Now on to question 4. Which reaction does Akira fear most from Chi? So answer A is very possible because throughout the passage you can see that Akira was considering maybe if he hadn't broke some tradition, she would have been more receptive. And over here, he again states, don't judge my candidacy by the unseemliness of this proposal. So he fears that his proposal is inappropriate because he didn't introduce his mother or father to him, but just came directly. Now, choice B is incorrect because even though it mentions immaturity over here, about Akira, she thinks of him as a child. It has nothing to do about Akira's fear or anything. For choice C, she will consider his unscheduled visit an imposition. This is sort of also implied in choice A, but there isn't anything about unscheduled. The main point in this choice is about the time, but Akira was just fearing the inappropriateness without the mediation part in between for his proposal. For choice D, that is also incorrect because, as you see over here, uh, she actually liked him in the very beginning. So, as eliminated all the other answer choices, A is the correct option for 4. Now on to the second half of the set of questions. So for this type of question, we can just scroll back and forth to eliminate the incorrect choices. So line 33, it says, his voice was soft and refined. This has nothing to do with our answer choice in D that we selected, which means his proposal was inappropriate. I guess similarly, in line 49 to 51, this has to do with the immaturity of Akira. Even though this is an option choice in 4 also, it has nothing to do with the inappropriateness of the proposal. For choice C, line 63 to 64, we have an understanding, though please don't judge my candidacy by the unseemliness of this proposal. This is exactly what we selected in choice 4, so this would probably be the correct answer. And finally, option D, line 71 and 72 over here, Eager to make his point, he had been looking her full in the face. This has to do with the sincerity of his emotions over here, but has nothing to do with the answer choice A that we selected. So C would be the correct answer for problem 5. Now on to problem 6. In the passage, Akira addresses Chi with affection, not genuinely love. This is wrong because Akira wants Naomi's hand and not Chi's, because Chi is Naomi's mother. That would be pretty weird. Answer choice B, objectivity but not complete impartiality. Akira actually addresses her with a lot of deference and just respect in general, because he was being really polite in his speech and formal. So B would also be wrong. C, amusement. He is not visiting a zoo, nor is Chi an animal. Chi is essentially in a position above him, so there is nothing about like amusement. Now on to answer choice D, respect but not utter deference. So first, we just assuming this whole passage, he is just speaking to her in a refined and polite way. So this answer choice, the first part, is at least is correct. However, over here, I think, yeah, we can see that he is breaking all tradition, and there is a factor like we thought about in choice 4, that his proposal is inappropriate. So I guess that's the part about not other deference, because he is sort of being impolite by not following the traditional procedure. Problem 7, the main purpose of the first passage is to A, describe a cultural. So we just scroll up to the first paragraph. It says Akira came directly, how he followed form. This is probably the result of what happened. It's like a flashback, sort of. So describe a cultural, no. He never described the tradition that he broke. B, criticize of tradition. He never criticized it, he just says he should have followed it, actually. Question a suggestion. There wasn't any questions, nor I think was there a suggestion problem in the first paragraph. Now, choice D is pretty much correct, because it analyzes Chi's reaction, and just maybe he reconsiders his approach. If he followed tradition, would the result could have been different. So that's correct, because it analyzes Chi's reaction. Now on to problem 8. As used in line 2, form most nearly means. So we scroll up to line 2, form, had he followed form. So this was essentially tradition, because in the context over here, it just says he broke all tradition. Was that it? If he had followed form, so this would be the opposite to this. So if there's a appearance, his appearance was nice, actually. She liked him in the beginning. Custom is essentially the same thing as tradition, so this would be the correct answer straight away. Structure, that has nothing really to do, nor can be a replacement for his form. Nature, that has absolutely no connection. So the correct answer choice here would be B. Problem 9. Why does Akira say his meeting with Chi is a matter of urgency? He fears that his own parents will disapprove of Naomi. Naomi is in a more noble family than his, nor did he really mention his own parents, except in the part where he fears that she would disapprove of him, because he didn't use his own parents to address her. So this is an incorrect answer choice. Option B, he worries that Naomi would reject him and marry someone else. Naomi is probably pretty loyal to him, nor does he in the passage mention anyone else, so this would also be incorrect. Answer choice C, he had been offered an attractive job in another country. This is definitely correct because over here it says I've got an opportunity to go to America, so this was his the part about being urgent, because the opportunity is either you you take it or you just leave it. So that's the pressure that he is facing, which he has to go to Chi directly with. Uh, so that this answer choice is probably correct. Answer choice D. He knows that she is unaware of his feeling for Naomi. This is true, but he would still address her, and it still wouldn't be urgent because he could come directly at like a random time. If he doesn't have the opportunity to go to America, it wouldn't be urgent because there is nothing that is pressuring him. This is just true, but it's not really answering the question. Finally, answer choice 10. So which of the following choice provides the best evidence for the answer we selected here, which is C? We can just go through and eliminate the answer choices that doesn't make sense. Line 39 over here, I don't want to trouble you. That has nothing to do with attractive job in another country. Line 39 to 42. Normally I would approach you with it more properly. That's just his fear. But oh wait, actually it says I've got an opportunity to go to America as dentist for Seattle's Japanese community. So this is actually possible. I was just looking at the first part of the sentence earlier, so that's actually possible. Line 58 to 59. Depending on your response, I may stay in Japan. I've come to ask for Naomi's hand. So this also in part relates to being offered an attractive job in another country, but just off this response, this piece of evidence alone, we don't know what type of job or its really connection to the urgency. Lines 72 to 73. Abruptly, his voice turned gentle. That's just being. I see. I see. I've startled you. Yeah, that has really nothing to do with being offered an attractive job either. So that choice can also be eliminated. So we end up with the answer choice B. As for the second passage, we can just repeat the process that we did for the first passage in the very beginning. You can highlight and underline whatever things while you're reading through, and pause the video later. You can pause the video now. Now that you haven't paused the video, again you can see here that I made a couple of highlights here and there. This is a different style of passage than the above fictional one, so instead of focusing on the character relationships, we would focus on things such as the nuances in someone's argument, because this is like an informational/persuasive passage. So first, they introduced the topic as the troubled feeling of gift giving over here. They then move into a more nuanced argument here, saying that people spend more money to buy a gift that the recipient would spend less on. They then attribute this to the belief that more expensive a gift is conveys a stronger signal, which they debunk a little bit, because recipients don't actually think that. Lastly, they lightly criticize what people do over here. They also gave a graph that says, essentially says, givers appreciate more expensive gifts, recipients don't really care because the average appreciation shown here is about equaled out, while the givers one here obviously thinks the more expensive gift is better. Now on to the questions. 11 says the author most likely uses the example in lines 1 through 9 of the passage to highlight. So if we scroll up, 1 through 9 is until here. So these lines are until this frequent experience of gift giving. So it doesn't move into talking about ambivalent feelings yet that is created from gift giving. It is just describing that millions of shoppers are buying these gifts because of these occasions. They are spending a lot of money. So option A would be probably correct because it shows a lot of places that people can and occasions that people would shop for gifts, and it also illustrates the amount of money that they spend on it. There is no recent increase in the amount of money shown. It only showed you a single number, which is essentially just a lot of money. So option B is incorrect. Option C would also be incorrect because it doesn't yet move into the anxiety that gift shopping causes. The anxiety is around the second half of the first paragraph, so lines 1 through 9 doesn't illustrate that. Option D, the number of special occasions involving gift giving. Lines 1 through 9 does address this, but this isn't the main point. It's sort of like an example that illustrates the regularity which people shop for gifts. It's sort of the why. Because there is a lot of number of special occasions where people shop for gifts, it increases the regularity which people shop for gifts. So for problem 11, A would be the correct answer choice. On to problem 12. In line 10, the word ambivalent. This is sort of just a dictionary question. There isn't really a lot of context to be shown here, but ambivalent essentially just means conflicted. There's two sides to an issue, like they're unsure whether to believe one or the other. So option B would just be correct. Problem 13. The authors indicate that people value gift giving because they feel it functions as a form of self-expression. It doesn't really say that it functions as a form of self-expression. It just shows that people give because they want to signal their positive attitudes towards the intended recipient, and so on. They aren't expressing themselves, really. They're just showing a form of appreciation and such. B, it is an inexpensive way to show appreciation. Well, it does matter for money, so this would be incorrect. C, requires the gift recipient to reciprocate. They never mentioned for the gift recipient to reciprocate, which means that they would, for example, give a gift back or something. They would. It is really just like a one-sided thing. The passage here, they really never mentioned reciprocating. So that is also incorrect. Option D can serve to strengthen a relationship. This is correct because over here and somewhere over here, yeah, these two also both say that it signals a positive attitude and establishes a future relationship and such. So option D is correct. Line 14. Which choice best provides the best evidence for the answer to the previous question? So option A, lines 10 to 13. Many relish the opportunity to buy presents because gift-giving offers a powerful means to build stronger bonds with one's closest peers. This is essentially exactly what we selected in last one, is strengthening a relationship. So this would be correct. But in case of uncertainty, we're just going to check the other ones. Lines 22 to 23. People buy gifts that recipients would not choose to buy on their own, or at least not spend as much money to purchase. this doesn't address the relationship part of it. It may correspond to the other answer choices, but it doesn't really strengthen a relationship or provide evidence for it. 31 to 32. Research has found that people often struggle to take account of others' perspectives. This doesn't really strengthen a relationship either. This is sort of the actual evidence that of what people think rather than what people value gift giving as. So this is like the truth rather than the one-sided view. So that would also be incorrect. Option D, lines 44 to 47. Although a link between gift price and feelings of appreciation might be intuitive to gift givers, such an assumption may be unfounded. Well, this is just talking about the relationship here, that the answer choice here that we selected is sort of false. So that is also incorrect because it really doesn't prove it. So answer option A would be correct for problem 14. On to problem 15. The social psychologist mentioned in paragraph 2 would likely describe the dead weight phenomenon as. So in paragraph 2, we can see here that this guy is saying that gift giving represents an objective waste of resources because they're spending more money and such. So this phenomenon isn't really what you would consider as predictable because it just happens. It's not something like geese migration where they might go. There's nothing really unpredictable about it, so it's not something that you would predict, if that makes sense. So option A would be incorrect. Option B, questionable. They're not questioning it. They already know that it exists, and they just find it disturbing, really. So option C would be correct here. It's not unprecedented because it already exists. It's proven. It's sort of proven that people give more expensive gifts that the recipient would spend themselves. So these three options are incorrect because they aren't doing any of the following. They just find it disturbing, and people may need to change that. So problem 16. The passage indicates that the assumption made by gift givers in lines 41 to 44 may be A, insincere. So first we scroll up to lines 41 to 44. The main idea is summed up here. The more expensive the gift, the stronger a gift recipient's feeling of appreciation. Option A would be incorrect because it is about the gift recipient's feeling of appreciation rather than how passionate or sincere the gift giver might be. Unreasonable may actually be a likely answer to select here, but it's also incorrect because lines 41 to 44 is already established the reason. This is like a reason that they might have for the assumption to be made over here, described over here, and on the other part. So it is not unreasonable, it's just incorrect as debunked later by the scientists. So C is the correct answer option here, and D is also incorrect. Substantiated means just reduced. So that would be incorrect. On to the second half of the answers. Problem 17. Which choice provides the best evidence for the answer to the previous question? Lines 53 to 55. So we would want to find that this belief is incorrect. Perhaps gift givers believe that bigger gifts convey stronger signals of thoughtfulness, and consideration. This doesn't prove that it is incorrect, so but it does relate, so we're gonna save that for later in case none of these, which is unlikely, convey the previous response. Lines 55 to 60. According to Kammerer and others, gift-giving represents a symbolic ritual where gift givers attempt to signal their positive attitudes for the intended recipient and their willingness to invest resources in a future relationship. This is essentially the same thing as the lost option, so essentially we can just eliminate these two because they sort of mean the same thing. Lines 63 to 65. As for gift recipients, they may not construe smaller and larger gifts as representing smaller and larger signals of thoughtfulness and consideration. So right off the bat, this is probably correct because this essentially just says smaller and larger gifts doesn't really represent thoughtfulness and consideration. It's not in the cost of the gift. Lines 75 to 78. Over here, in theoretical terms, people fail to utilize information about their own preferences and experiences in order to produce more efficient outcomes in their exchange relations. This doesn't really disprove it either. This is essentially just criticizing them almost. So the correct answer choice here would be C. Problem 18. As used in line 54, convey most nearly means. So we scroll up to line 54. Perhaps givers believe that bigger gifts convey stronger signals of thoughtfulness and consideration. There's no really special meaning here. If you know the word, you should be able to select the right answer. Convey essentially just means communicates or demonstrates. So we're gonna see if that, yeah, communicates is actually right here, so that's just the right answer. I don't think I need to explain the other ones because it's pretty far off from communicate. So problem 19. The author refers to work by Kammerer and others in order to. Kammerer and others, this is sort of just like a credibility thing. It illustrates what gift giving is. So we're gonna see if there's anything about that here. Offer an explanation, introduce an argument, question a motive, support a conclusion. So we can just use elimination here again. Option C would be incorrect because it does not question a motive. It's just saying something that occurs. Support a conclusion. There isn't really any conclusions made here, to be honest. It's just saying what gift giving represents, why people believe more expensive the gift, the stronger a gift recipient's feeling of appreciation. It's offering an explanation. There wasn't any conclusions made yet. So that is also straight out incorrect. Now on to the two more likely options to select. Introduce an argument. This may seem to be reasonable, but it doesn't really introduce any arguments. It's offering an explanation for the phenomenon shown above. So A would be the correct answer choice, because B is incorrect that it introduces an argument by itself. Line 20, problem 20. The graph following the passage offers evidence that gift givers base their predictions of how much a gift will be appreciated on the monetary value of the gift. So, as I said before, as we can see here, the giver over here believes that the more expensive the gift, which is the lighter column, the higher the mean appreciation, which is essentially their average appreciation for the gifts that give out. So there is a sort of significant significantly more appreciation if they give out a more expensive gift. It doesn't really have to do in relationship to the appreciation level of the gift recipients, because over here actually the less expensive the gift is, the higher the mean appreciation is. So they don't actually know, the gift givers don't actually know what the recipients are thinking. So A is incorrect, B is most likely correct, C, their own desires for the gift they purchase. There is nothing about desire here, it's just monetary value, more expensive gift is, and their appreciation. Similarly, D is also incorrect, it doesn't mention their relationship, so option B is correct for problem 20. Problem 21. The authors would likely attribute the differences in gift giver and recipient mean attribution as represented in the graph to an inability to shift perspective. This is probably correct because even in the passage it was saying how people are struggling to transfer the information they gain from one row to the other, and they aren't learning to calibrate their gift expenditures. Option B is incorrect because it doesn't really mention anything about an increasingly materialistic culture in the passage nor the graph. Similarly, a growing opposition to gift giving was talking about a phenomenon in gift giving the whole time. There wasn't really any oppositions to gift giving itself. It's just opposition to a phenomenon that occurs in gift giving. So option D, a misunderstanding of intentions. Well, it's not really intentions, it's just appreciation of what the recipients would understand it as. Intentions is from the gift giver. It's more like giver to recipient rather than recipient to giver. It's talking about the feeling that the giver has to the recipient rather than what the recipient would think the giver would intended to be. Alright, now as for the third passage, we're just going to repeat the process. You can pause the video right here. As you see here, I have highlighted a couple of more things. This is a scientific informational passage, so it would most likely just be informational based without any specific order you expect information to be presented in. First, the passage introduces DNA, which is a very long chain and such. It is made out of 2 chains. Then it introduces some specific stuff such as the concept of specific pairing and gives some details about it. For example, adenine has to pair with thymine while guanine has to pair with cytosine. That's about it for the passage. It also presents a data table. You can see here that these 2 values are pretty much the same and these 2 values are pretty much the same. Well, there's probably some error, but these 2 values are supposedly just supposed to be the exact same. Yeah, I'm just assuming there's error here, but essentially these 2 are going to be the closest, and these 2 are going to be the closest. Now on to the problems. The author used the word backbone in lines 3 and 9 to indicate that. So we're going to scroll up to lines 3 and 9, the backbone of which consists of a regular altercation, the molecule. So, and 39, the phosphate sugar backbone. So the backbone here isn't referring directly to the backbone of the animal. It's essentially like used in a comparative and figurative way. The molecule isn't really an animal. It doesn't really have a backbone, but it's what people call it because it's the probably the most essential structure, like the most important structure. So option A, the only very long chains of DNA can be taken from an organism with a spinal column. So this is wrong because the backbone mentioned here isn't the actual backbone of an animal. It's, as I said before, used in sort of a figurative way. Option B, the main structure of a chain in a DNA molecule is composed of repeating units. It mentions main structure, and the option itself is also correct because repeating units is also mentioned here, a regular alternation of sugar and phosphate groups. So this is most likely just correct. Option C, a chain in the DNA molecule consists entirely of phosphate groups or of sugars. As mentioned here, it says regular alternation, so it's one sugar and one phosphate. It's not consist entirely of one or the other, so this one is also wrong. Option D, even though it mentions main structural unit, DNA isn't formed of nitrogenous bases, it's formed of phosphate groups or sugars as mentioned before. So option B would be the correct answer. Question 23. A student claims that nitrogenous bases pair randomly with each other. Which of the following contradicts the student's claim? As we have gone over in the general overview before, it's probably in the later parts of the passage because so we're gonna go from bottom to up. Option D, 27 to 29. One member of a pair must be purine, and the other must be a pyridamine in order to bridge between two chains. So this is immediately just probably the correct answer because nitrogenous bases do not randomly pair with each other because a pyridamine has to pair with a purine, and furthermore, as mentioned in the rest of the passage, there is a specific pairing between the types of bases. So this one is probably just correct, but just in case, we're just gonna go over the other answer options. Lines 23 to 25. The bases are joined together in pairs, a single base from one chain being hydrogen bonded to a single base from the other. Even though later it mentions like it is probably because of this that only certain pairs of bases will fit into the structure, this sentence by itself doesn't really mention anything, so it's really not connected nor contradicts the student's claim directly. Lines 9 to 10. So far as is known, the sequence of bases along the chain is irregular. This is incorrect because it sort of actually proves in a way the student's claim. It's irregular because the pairing can, not the pairing, the bases can be in any pattern possible. It's just that the pairing has to be specific. So this doesn't mention anything about the pairings, which doesn't contradict the student's claim. Lines 5 to 6. To each sugar is attached a nitrogenous base, which can be of 4 different types. This would be incorrect because it not even that it doesn't mention anything about the 4 different bases that is being able to be paired. It doesn't even mention anything about pairing, so this is just flat out wrong. Unrelated. So problem 24. In the second paragraph, lines 12 to 19, what do the authors claim to be a feature of biological interest? So when we scroll up to 12 to 19, the first feature, which is of biological interest, it gives it right away actually. It consists of not only one chain but of 2, so it's the 2 chains. Right here is DNA consisting of 2 chains, so that's just the correct answer right there. Now we're going to disprove the other ones. The chemical formula of DNA is, well, okay, it just immediately just describes this as the feature of biological interest. The X-ray evidence as shown here is densely related, but that's the evidence that these two chains exist. It's evidence, not the actual thing that scientists are biologically interested in. And these two are even less related, so I'm not going to talk about those. On to problem 25. The author's main purpose of including the information about X-ray evidence and density is to, well, as I just said, it's providing evidence for the existence of two changing the DNA. So we're going to look at the options. Option A, establish that DNA is the molecule that carries the genetic information. This is already established before proving the existence of the two chains. So this is like a very early prerequisite to the X-ray evidence and such. So this is incorrect because the X-ray evidence doesn't prove this. It just proves that DNA has two chains. So this is incorrect. Option B, present an alternate hypothesis about the composition of a nucleotide. It doesn't present a alternative hypothesis again, it just presents some evidence. C, provide support for the author's claim about the number of chains in the molecules of DNA. This is exactly what it's doing. It's saying that DNA has two chains, and it's providing evidence for it because the density taken with the X-ray suggests very strongly that there are two. This just immediately gives it away. Option D confirms the relationship between the density of DNA and the known chemical formula of DNA. This isn't really mentioned either, so the correct answer choice here is C. On to problem 26. Based on the passage, the author's statement, if a pair consisted of two purines, for example, there would not be room for it, implies that a pair. So in the passage, it indicates that a pair must be between a purine and a pyridamine. And it also indicates over here that a pair of two purines, there would not be room for it. So I guess two purines would be either their shape or simply their size would not match in a puzzle, so there wouldn't be enough room for it. So this would mean that a pair of purines would be larger than a pair consisting of a purine and a pyridamine. But for safety's sake, we're going to go over the other answer choices. Option A, a pair of purines would be larger than the space between a sugar and a phosphate group. This is actually mentioning this, a pair of purines is actually mentioning the section about hydrogen bonds and such, so I'm guessing it's more related to hydrogen bonds rather than the backbone part. So that option is wrong because one, it does not mention the space between a sugar and the phosphate group. Second, what I just said. So option A is wrong. Option B is what we just said. Option C is correct. Option C, a pair of pyridamines would be larger than a pair of purines. This might be implied, but maybe a pair of purines is simply the shape that wouldn't fit. It doesn't match like a puzzle, so perhaps that's the part that messes it up. So there's no guarantee that a pair of pyridamines would be larger than a pair of purines. The most likely is that it's smaller, but same with D. A pair of perfectly matching pyridamines would be larger than a pair of pyridamines. Maybe it's the puzzle thing again, so a pair of pyridamines won't match that well, so similarly to the purines, it won't fit. Therefore, option B is the correct answer choice here. Problem 27. The author's use of words exact, specific, and complement in lines 47 to 49 in the final paragraph functions mainly to. So we scroll up to lines 47 to 49. We can start from the beginning of this sentence. If the actual order of the bases on one pair of chains were given, one could write down the exact order of the bases on the other one because of specific pairing. So I guess this would mean that if you already know one chain of bases, you can exactly determine the other one, as indicated before. DNA has two chains, so if you know one chain, you know the other, because adenine can only pair with thymine, and guanine can only pair with cytidine. So now onto the options. Option A, to confirm that the nucleotide sequences are known for most molecules of the DNA. It doesn't confirm that the nucleotide sequence are known for most molecules of DNA. It doesn't really touch on any part of that, actually. Option B, counter the claim that the sequence of bases along a chain can occur in any order. This doesn't counter the claim. It actually sort of supports it. It just says if you know one chain, you know the other one. So along one chain can occur in any order. Along the other chain is like a copy. Well, I guess, okay. The other chain that can't occur in any order, but in this option it says a chain. So that one chain can occur in any order, but the other chain just have to follow suit. So option B is also incorrect. Option C support the claim that the phosphate sugar backbone of the author's model is completely irregular. It doesn't really mention anything about the phosphate backbone, so that's just ruled out. Option D, emphasize how one chain of DNA may serve as a template to be copied during DNA replication. I think this is what it's about, because DNA replication, it's just the other chain copying the first chain. So if you know one chain, the exact combination can be copied, so there isn't any like randomness that may occur. So option D would be the correct answer. Problem 28. Based on the table and the passage, which choice gives the correct percentages of purines in yeast DNA? So we would first have to find which pair is the purines and which pair is the pyridamines. So it actually says here that adenine and guanines are purines and the other two are pyridamines. So for problem 28, we would find adenine and guanine in yeast. So it's 31.3 and 18.7. Which is here. So 28 is option C. 29. Do the data in the table support the author's proposed pairing of bases in DNA? I would say yes, because there's probably some percent margin of error, but obviously adenine pair with thymine, so these two are the closest, and guanine pair with cytosine, so those two pairs are the closest. Let's look at the options. We can just simply rule out the no ones, but we're going to look at it later. Option A, yes, because for each given organism, the percentage of adenine is closest to the percentage of thymine, and the percentage of guanine is closest to the percentage of cytosine. So I would think this one is correct, because it does match what we said earlier. The option B is adenine with guanine, which is incorrect because adenine matches with thymine as indicated in the passage. So B is incorrect. Option C, no, because for each organism, well, okay, this just repeats it, but because the percentage of adenine is closest to the percentage of thymine, which is what is shown in the table above, it's actually correct. According to the tables. Okay, so for problem 29, option A is correct. Moving on to problem 30. According to the table, which of the following pairs of base percentages in sea urchin DNA provides evidence in support of the answer to the previous question? So we would just look at the matching pairs. Obviously, this would just be the correct answer because we selected yes. But to double check, we're just gonna check if to see if they are the same pairs. It's guanine with cytosine, so it is matching with what we said earlier. So option A is the right answer for question 30. Question 31. Based on the table, is the percentage of adenine in each organism's DNA the same, or does it vary? And which statement made by the authors is most consistent with the data? Well, the percentage of adenine in each organism does vary because in the table you can see all these different variables. So it does vary. We can just rule out option A and option B, and look at the choices for option C and D. Lines 36 to 38. Scroll up, find that. Adenine, for example, can occur on either chain, but when it does, its partner on the other chain must always be thymine. I think this is correct because this can occur on either chain and is probably random unless this specifically says something about randomness. So lines 41 to 45. It follows, we're going to read from the top over here. Any sequence of pairs of bases can fit into the structure. It follows that in a long molecule, many different permutations are possible, and it therefore seems likely that the precise sequence of bases is the code. So 41 to 45 is essentially saying that there's many permutations possible, which means that it's random. So option D is actually the correct answer because this does not specifically mention that adenine is randomly organized. It just says something about the pairing. So option D would be the correct answer. Now on to the fourth passage. We're going to repeat the process again. You know the drill. Pause here, highlight whatever, and unpause the video after you're done. You may pause the video now. Welcome back. Like before, we are going to first discuss the passage and move on to the questions. So first, we can see there are two passages here. It is almost always helpful to read the little section in between that describes the motivation or maybe even purpose of the passages. Let's move into the first passage. So first, it introduces the topic of space mining. You can see I have highlighted here. People are trying to make space mining from a fiction to reality. Then it moves on into two actual examples, in this case two private firms that are actually trying to make it a reality. After the examples, the passage moves on to meeting earthly demands for precious materials, or the purpose of extracting or doing space mining. Another purpose they introduced here is an off-planet economy, free of any bonds with Earth. So people are trying to create off-planet an economy that is free from Earth's economy, like in separate markets. And then these two paragraphs are kind of independent in my opinion, because it just suddenly jumps to like purposes right to something about a difference between Earth and the off-planet economy that it introduced over here. In these two paragraphs, it first introduces water as probably the most desired commodity, which means most desired resource in outer space. And here it introduces a methodology of how water can be used in space. The last paragraph that finishes off paragraph 1 introduces another cause for which companies could look forward to space mining. As it says here, it can be used for 3D printing or just more space expansions such as landing pads, shelters, and roads. These two are probably on Earth. Anyway, those are just some minor details, so I don't think these two matters too much. Now on to passage 2. Passage 2, like passage 1, first brings in the introduction of a discussion for space mining. Now, so it introduces it here, it can provide material bounty and spin-off technologies. However, this is where passage 2 differs from passage 1, because passage 2 introduces the idea of like not everything is positive about space mining. We need to hold back. We need some considerations. So starting from here, we can see it just introduces mere careful consideration. Even though there's some stuff that could enrich us all, we need to protect it like we do on Earth. So it argues that when we space mine, we should still preserve most of the outer space, unlike just Earth just trashing it all over. And then it says, even though it's difficult to preserve it, it's still worth it to preserve it. The next paragraph moves into this off-world economy that is also introduced in passage 1. So it says the resources are valuable in orbit and also very different to what we prize on Earth. This over here is like an exemplification of this sentence. So to finish it off, passage 2 ends with even though there are questions being approached, such as the one of preserving outer space, many are just reluctant to engage. Even one such example said, whatever these questions, they should just be avoided completely. And it just finishes off with the conclusion that without consensus, claims will be disputed and all these negative consequences will be in effect. So it should be in humanity's best interest to reconsider its choices and evaluate its decisions and its long-term consequences. Now on to question 1. The author paragraph 1 mentions several companies, primarily 2. So we first scroll up to lines 9 to 17. So this is the area where the passage provides an example of making space mining the reality. It lists 2 firms. One wants to launch a telescope, another wants to harvest metal by 2020. So one is like a methodology, the other is just a goal. So option A, note the technological advances that make space mining possible. These lines did not list any technological advances. Maybe telescopes count, but it doesn't mention it specifically, like it doesn't highlight it as a technological advances. So overall, like, it doesn't even introduce rovers or anything, so there's nothing that makes A possible. Option B, provide evidence of growing interest in space mining. This option is very possible because there are like two firms that sprouted, I think is what it said. Yeah, the unveiling of two firms. So new firms are rising, they're showing interest, they want to do this, they have this goal, and blah blah blah. So that is very possible. Option C, emphasize the large profits to be made from space mining. It did not mention anything about profits in such lines, so that option is incorrect. Option D, highlight the diverse ways to carry out space mining operations. So even though it listed two ways that are, I guess, if you look at them separately, they are pretty diverse. One is like a methodology, as I said before, and the other is like a goal. They aren't ways. One is a way, and the other is just simply a goal. Even to dispute, prove this choice even more wrong, we can see that there are only two. There's only two ways. It only listed two firms, nor did it mention anything about it being diverse. So, since the diversity of this isn't highlighted, nor is the reasons that I mentioned before, option D is also incorrect. Therefore, option B is the best answer choice. The author of passage 1 indicates that space mining could have which positive effect? So, option A, it could yield materials important to Earth's economy. This is just repeated throughout a paragraph, the entire paragraph over here, yup. Maybe meeting earthly demands for precious metals such as platinum and gold. There's like all these goodies in outer space that Earth wants, and outer space just has the stuff for it. So right off the bat, this is probably the correct answer choice, but let us look at the other ones first. Option B, it could raise the value of some precious materials on Earth. It does not mention something like inflation. That probably is what raise means. It didn't mention anything along those lines. So B is incorrect. Option C, it could create unanticipated technological innovations. It just said that there are a lot of materials. I don't think there are any part of passage 1 that mentioned technological innovations. Option D, it could change scientists' understanding of space resources. No, it didn't really mention how it could its significance of influences scientists' decisions. The closest it got is probably um, these technological innovations over here, but that's like still nowhere close to what the answer choice means. So in the end, it's just option A. Question 44. If you didn't really get the previous question or how to answer directly, you can always just like breeze through these lines and just answer question 43 after you answer question 44. But since we're just moving like a streamline, we're just gonna go from question to question. Question 44, lines 18 to 22. Within the few decades, this is exactly where we were before, just there's platinum, there's gold, there's all these rare earth elements, all these goodies, yeah. This is probably the correct answer choice. I'm just going to highlight this. But let's not get too cocky. Let's look at the other answer choices first. Lines 24 to 28. They also hope to build an off-planet economy free of any bond with Earth. This is the off-planet economy part. There is nothing about yielding materials important to Earth's economy. Actually, this is saying that they want to build an economy that is separate from Earth. So it's almost the complete opposite. Lines 29 to 30. In this scenario, water mined from other worlds could become the most desired commodity. This is talking about like how in an off-planet economy, or just in outer space in general, people may not value the same things as on Earth. So this is also incorrect. It has nothing to do with yielding materials important to Earth. Lines 41 to 44. Companies are eyeing the iron, silicon, and aluminum in lunar soils and asteroids, which could be used in 3D printers to make spare parts or machinery. This answer choice is rather tempting, but it's not about the Earth's economy. This is like private companies. Maybe even if it's public, it's not like they're selling it. They're actually utilizing the material. They're not buying. It's not talking about how they are trying to buy more and more. They're just considering using it to build other things. This part is like the after phase of gathering the materials, which is happening here. So this is where these firms want the material. This is where what the materials are going to use to be. So this answer choice is the correct answer choice is option A. Line 19, demands most nearly means. We scroll up to line 19. These firms may be meeting earthly demands. So offers means it's like the complete opposite. It's Earth wants something, it's not offering something. Earth claims, that really makes no sense. And claims is like an expression. You say a claim. Option C, inquiries. Inquiries is more like a question. It's like a set of inquiries. It's like a set of questions. It's not the demands in this case. The demands in this case is most likely to be answer choice D, because it's desiring it, it's wanting it. It's not a question. This is more like a question, even though this has like it may even suggest like a series of questions, a series of requests. It's almost like a different thing than requests. So this word, you can search it up in the dictionary. It is different from desires. Question 46. What function does the discussion of water in lines 35 to 40 serve in passage 1? So this is the part where it just talks about how the values become different in a off-planet economy. Option A, it continues an extended comparison. There is not really a comparison, is there? Yeah, it's just saying water can do this, water can do that. The values are different. There is not really a comparison going on here. Unexpected answer. There is no question raised in the previous paragraph, so it's not a really unexpected answer either. It's just a random thing. Option C. It offers hypothetical examples supporting a claim made in the previous paragraph. I think this is the correct answer choice here, because in the previous paragraph it mentions how space mining is like a space miners will try to create a off-planet economy, which is like a hypothetical thing. And this paragraph provides hypothetical examples of what would happen in a off-planet economy. Yeah, so the claim here is that free of bonds of any to Earth. Yeah, the claim here is just that they are going to build an off-planet economy, and this part is how that off-planet economy would differ, so this supports it. Well, I guess this also in part supports the claim over here more directly than whatever this section is. So, earthly demands are precious metals, like all this stuff. So precious metals are for Earth, water is for space. Kilogram of gold is also mentioned above over here. So this is just like a connection off of this preceding paragraph. Even though this answer choice seems a little forced, it's probably the best answer choice out of any here. Because option D, the last one, examines possible outcomes of a proposal put forth in the previous paragraph. There's nothing about outcomes. This is just like an exemplification of whatever will go on if a off-planet economy occurs. So, in the end, I believe that answer C, choice C, is the correct answer choice. Question 47. The central claim of passage 2 is that space mining has positive potential, but A, it will end up encouraging humanity's reckless treatment of its planet. I don't think it mentioned anything about encouraging. It just says be careful not to go overboard. Nor does it really talk about how reckless it is. This may be too strong of a vocabulary word. Usually SAT, the correct answer choices in SATs are more like moderate ones. It's not like very strong opinion. So answer A is most likely incorrect. Answer B. Its effects should be thoughtfully considered before it becomes a reality. This is exactly what is talking about in passage 2, as I mentioned before. It says we should consider this, this is a danger, that is a danger. Without consensus, it's more of a danger, so yeah, it should be thoughtfully considered. Choice C, such potential may not include replenishing key resources that are disappearing from Earth. It didn't really talk about how, it didn't really talk about how it's like maybe replacing something else that's not needed on Earth. Uh, it actually talks about how, it makes billionaires wealthier, so anything, if at all, is just meeting the earthly demands. This answer choice is incorrect. Experts disagree about the commercial viabilities of the discoveries it could yield. It's not really talking about exploration, it's just talking about material, and the most experts talk about in passage 2 is that is over the issue whether considerations should be and rules should be made about space mining. So nothing about discoveries. On to question 48, another vocabulary question, line 68, hold. History suggests that those will be hard line to hold. I'm just guessing here it probably means maintain just by inserting the vocabulary that flows smoothly in the sentence. History suggests that those will be hard lines to like not cross is the meaning here. Yeah, there's exactly maintained. So answer choice A is correct. It does not. The rest can essentially be skipped, but we're just gonna look at it anyway. Grip. This is like a hand motion, or just like an action of holding on. Holding on. It's more of like a it's not really maintaining. It's like, how do I explain this? It's there's no definition. There's nothing in the definition that mentions how holding like withstanding or just not crossing a line. This is just emotion. Answer choice C, restrain. Restrain is to restrain a person or an object. It's not really to restrain a rule. It's not limiting whatever. It's just to maintain and just withhold a line. Withstand. Withstand is to withstand some outside pressure. It does not mean hold. So let's move on to the next question. Question 49. Which statement best describes the relationship between the passages? Passage 2 does not refute the central claim. Passage 1 talks about how space mining has all these positive things. Passage 2 talks about we need to thoughtfully reconsider our choices before doing so. Maybe we should set some rules, maybe we should do that. So it doesn't refute the central claim, it just adds on something that we should consider. Option A is close but incorrect. Option B, passage 2 illustrates the phenomenon described in more general terms. It's not illustrating a phenomenon. It's not it's talking about considerations of space mining. It's not illustrating it. Passage 2 argues against the practicality of the proposals put forward. It's not saying it's unpractical. It's saying we should, when we do it, we should make sure that there are rules set, which is what it talks about in option choice D, as you can see here, reservations about developments. We need to reserve ourselves. We must not go too far and ruin everything about our environment, is what it's saying. Question 50. The author of passage 2 would most likely respond to the discussion of the future of space mining, lines 18 to 28. Let's look at that first. Within a few decades, there is all these precious metals, off-planet economy. Let's scroll down again. Such a future is inconsistent with the sustainable use of space resources. It doesn't really mention this. Option B will be difficult to bring about in the absence of regulations. This is probably what it's talking about. At the end over here, you see, in passage 2, without consensus, claims will be disputed, investments risky, and the gains made insecure. And these over here, this stuff over here is like for profit and exploitation, pioneers and such. So this is kind of just connected to this. It's also addressing the off-road economy as it introduced over here. So actually this is directly connected. So this is probably just the correct answer choice over here. Option C, cannot be attained without technologies that do not yet exist. It doesn't talk about that. It's just, again, it's expressing reservations. It's not questioning anything. Seems certain to affect Earth's economy. It didn't say it will affect it in a negative way. I actually said that billionaires will prosper more, that Earth will actually prosper more. It's just that space will be ruined. So, and over here, it's another evidence question. I think on the last lines, we already kind of finished this part. We already said that the lines 85 to 87 is the most correct one. Without consensus, this will be this. Yeah, this is just the line over here. Let's just move on to the next question. As question 52, which point about the resources that will be highly valued in space is implicit and explicit in passage 2? So these two passages would probably agree on this point. Let's start from top down. They may be different resources from those that are valuable on Earth. Yeah, this is actually what it said. Passage 2 said something along here like, where is it? The resources that are valuable in orbit and beyond may be very different to those that we price on Earth. This is exemplifying it over here, I guess. Technically, it is implying it too, so I'm guessing this is already the correct answer choice. Option B, they will be valuable only if they can be harvested cheaply. Nothing about cheaply or expensively over here. They are likely to be primarily precious metals and rare earth elements. I think both of them said the same thing. They just said space mining could provide precious metals, but neither of them addressed that. It's mostly of that. But if any, both of them would suggest that at the same time. It's not like it's explicit and implicit in the other. Explicit is like it just directly says it in the paragraph. Implicit, it suggests it strongly. It's almost like it's saying it directly, but it's not directly saying it. Don't overthink anything. It's SAT. It's supposed to be like a certain answer choice, so don't overthink and make up implications. If it's an implication, it will be very obvious. Answer choice D, they may increase in value as those same resources become rare on Earth. No, it's meeting earthly demands as it says in almost like both paragraphs and both passages. So that will be it. That's the end of the reading section. Thank you for watching. Good luck on the SAT.